Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm gonna show you what I'm up to today. So I got this little excavator. I bought it. Sorry, it's hunting season and there's a bunch of people out here in the woods and nearby. It sounds like one of the other property owners may be doing some target shooting because they keep popping off rounds every now and then, so hopefully that won't be too distracting. Anyway, so I got this little excavator and I bought it used. I bought it from a neighbor, one of the neighboring property owners. He bought it brand new from auction. It came from Cherry Equipment Group. They imported it from China, put their branding on it, sold it in auction, and he bought it. And he used it a few times and started having issues. So he ended up deciding to sell it. So I got it. I got it pretty cheap because of that. And I'm gonna show you the issue that he was having and what I'm gonna do to try to fix it. All right, so this is the hydraulic drive motor, 2 hydraulic lines that come tie in there. You see the other one on the other side, and that's what drives the track on this side. It's held on by 4 bolts here through this flange, and then the axle here is threaded, has a keyway underneath and a keyway on this sprocket. So the sprocket slides on, got an axle key. I got some new axle keys here. Got an axle key that makes it turn with the axle, and then the castle nut threads on, and then a cotter pin goes through and holds the castle nut from coming off, which holds the sprocket from coming off, and that's what turns the track. So the problem that he was having is he lost the original castle nut. I guess it came off while he was using it. I don't know how he lost it originally, but he lost the original castle nut. So he reached out to Cherry Equipment Group, and they gave him the thread size and what size castle nut to get. So he ordered 2 new ones. But the problem, if you can see, is it's really wiggly. I mean, it's not a good tight thread. And so I believe what's happened is these threads have gotten worn down and boogered up enough that the castle nut just won't stay on. I mean, you can almost push it on and off by hand. And once you get this sprocket on there and start getting tension on it, what was happening is it was pushing the sprocket and the castle nut out enough that it was bending the cotter pins over and breaking them off, and then just pushing the castle nut off, which was misaligning the sprocket and throwing the track. So I took the hydraulic motor off and took it to my dad on a weekend, and then because I worked during the week and couldn't do it, he took it to about 4 or 5 different machine shops, hoping that we could find one that could rethread this, either weld it up and rethread it, or cut it down and rethread it with a different thread pitch. But none of them wanted to mess with it. They either said they couldn't do anything with it, or they just didn't give a reason, said no. So I think it was just either too small of a job and they didn't want to mess with it, or they didn't want to mess with hydraulics. Or I took it to a hydraulic, or actually I had my dad take it to a hydraulic specialty machine shop that specializes in hydraulic pumps and motors, and they kept it for about a week and then finally called me and said, we can't do it, come get it. Didn't charge me anything. So I think what I'm going to do as a temporary fix is I'm just going to put it back on there. Oh, there goes the gunshots again. Anyway, I'm gonna put the motor back on, reconnect the lines, put the sprocket on with the axle key, put the castle nut on there as far as I can get it to go on, and get it as tight as I can get it. And then I think what I'm going to do is just get out my welder and just weld some on each one of these and just basically weld it on there as a temporary, because unless the motor actually goes out, I don't really have a reason to take it off. So I mean, this is your idler pull, or the adjustment pulley up here that you adjust in here, and it moves it forward and back. That's how you tension the track. So this one is just stationary, I mean, other than the fact that it rotates and turns. So once it's on there, unless it goes out, I have no reason to need to remove it. So the plan is to weld it on there, get the track back on, be able to use it. In the meantime, I'm going to start looking to try to get just replace this completely. I found a bunch of them on eBay. There is a part number back here on the back, this BMSY-315. The problem I'm having is that part number, there's about 4 or 5 at least variations of that part, and they're all based on the diameter of this axle shaft, what type of connection this is, the thread pitch, the hydraulic fitting size, and then this mounting plate. And there's like there's 2 different variations that have this type of axle, and of those 2 different variations, there's different lengths, there's different widths, there's different fittings here, fitting sizes. And so trying to figure out which one is the right one to order off of eBay has been a little challenging, because they're about $400, and I don't want to spend $400 on a hydraulic motor and get it and realize it's the wrong size. So there is a company name on the back of this part that manufactured it. I found their website. They're based in China, of course, and their website is all in Chinese. Of course, I can't read it. They do have an email address on there, so I think I'm going to try to email the company, see if they have somebody that speaks English and can respond, and see if I can either order a new motor directly from them, or at least get the specifications for it so I can figure out which one to order from eBay. So that's something I'm going to do, but in the meantime, like I said, I'm just going to weld this thing on there so I can use it. So that's what I'm doing today. If that's something you're interested in seeing, stick around. Alright, so I started it up and spun it over. For one, make sure I wasn't leaking here, and two, to get the axle key on the top so that I could get to it easier. The axle keys that I have, none of them are exactly the right size and style, but I have some that fit in there. I'm just gonna have to trim it down. So I got my angle grinder. I'm gonna round over the one end and then cut it off a little bit and round over the other end to get it to fit. All right, there we go. I got the axle key in there. It's a nice snug fit. You know, I had to grind down quite a bit, but it's in there. Now I can take the sprocket, slide it on. Alright, so now this castle nut is supposed to go on here. And hold that sprocket in place. And if I take and try to tighten it down, it gets to about right there and then it starts slipping, which is right where the cotter pin should go in. I got a couple cotter pins here I'll show you. But it goes in like that, and that's what's supposed to hold the sprocket from coming off. Problem is, with those threads being jacked up like they are, it just pushes the cotter pin over until it breaks it off, and then the castle nut comes off. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put some welds on each one of these just to keep this thing from coming off so I can use it. I'm gonna have to get my generator out and the welder, and then I'll put a few welds on that. And if I ever have to take it off, or when I get a new drive motor, then I'll just grind the welds off and we go. It's not pretty, but I'm not a welder, so I think it hopefully will hold. So we'll try it out. I'll put the track back on and see what happens.